I said, okay, I'll go for one session. I went to his office, which was an apartment, and he had like an army cot. I mean, Lauren, I will tell, I was horrified. I was like, oh my God, I'm a nice Jewish girl. What am I doing in, like, is he going to hurt me? And I mean, the fact that I would even lay down in the army cot was horrifying, but I
Wow.
did, and it helped. I mean, I remember walking home and I was like, oh my God, I can breathe more. I was like, what is happening? But it was such a shift in thought patterns. It was such a shift in belief systems that my body could hardly, or I could hardly keep up with what was happening.
What if the best chapter of your life hasn't even begun yet? What lies within you is the power to live brighter, bolder, and truer than ever before. So welcome to Vivatude, where caregiving, connections, and career come into balance and where your vitality, vision, and voice shines through. Because the revolution isn't out there, it's already within you. Welcome to Vivatude.
Hello and welcome to Vivatude. I'm Lauren Archer, your host for emotional and spiritual wellness. If you're a woman over 40, you know this stage of life can be a lot. Some days you're caregiving for kids still at home, or parents who need you, or both at the same time. Or other days you may be asking those deeper questions like, is it time to make a change? To live in a way that feels more real, more authentic, more me? Well, this show is all about the energy it takes to navigate all of that and how we can restore and lift our energy for more vitality, clarity, and joy. We'll talk about the hard stuff and the hopeful stuff, going beyond the noise of daily demands to tap into the heart and soul of what really matters. And along the way, you'll hear stories of courage, healing, and reinvention, reminding you that you're not alone and you belong here.
Mm.
And my guest today knows this journey firsthand. Ellen Newhouse is the author of Nothing Ever Goes On Here, a memoir of resilience and renewal that shines a light on the challenges that many of us face and the possibilities waiting on the other side. Ellen is also an intuitive healer, acupuncturist, and transformational coach with over 30 years of experience helping women reclaim their voice, their vitality, and their emotional freedom. And she even turned her memoir into a one woman show. Ellen's story is a powerful example of how silence can give way to truth, how caregiving threads throughout our lives, and how reinvention is possible at any stage. So, welcome, Ellen. Welcome to Vivitude.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Very excited for our talk today.
Me too. We are going to start with a few questions and then allow the conversation to unfold naturally because I know we share a lot of the same ideas about how we can shift our energy from struggle, from challenge into more vitality and joy. So let's start, if we can, with your book title. It's so evocative. Nothing ever goes on here. Can you share why you chose it and what it reveals about your family story?
Well, without giving it too much away, it came out of a conversation and it came out of the kind of trauma that I went through where the abuser, my father, was constantly telling me, no, no, that is not reality. Here's your reality. No, no, that is not happening. Here's what is happening. And I will tell you, it was absolutely crazy making because as a young girl, you look up to your parents, you look to them as role models, but you have an inner knowing. And when your inner knowing is saying, wait, 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 things are bad here, and you're constantly being told, no, no, that's not happening, or no, things are just fine. But your inner knowing. And so eventually, unfortunately, you give your inner knowing away. and there are many options. My path was to submerge everything that I knew to be true and took on my father's truth as truth. And that lasted until I was actually 26 years of age when I woke up and I couldn't breathe. And when you can't breathe, let me tell you, all hell breaks loose.
I can't
And
imagine.
yeah, so it was extremely challenging, and I spent 2 years in Western medicine, and absolutely no medication worked. It may work for 5 minutes, and then it was done, and I think this was very purposeful because my guides were trying to get my attention, were trying to get me back to my knowing, and eventually, when the last doctor offered his solution as an oxygen tank, I was like, no, this time for me to go to my divine spirit. And that's what I did. And that was the beginning of me being able to find my voice again.
I love it. I want to address something right up front. So, you talked about guides and divine spirit. And here, when we talk about emotional and spiritual wellness, we come at it from a universal perspective. So, the language that every individual uses is unique to them, but we are very inclusive here. And it's whatever filter you have to interpret that. So, I don't know if you want to share anything on that. I know a lot of people connect with different ways of knowing.
Yes, well, I grew up in a very conservative Jewish home, and there was no talk of divine spirit. There was no, I mean, the only thing we spoke about was God. And so I came into this life with a very sacred bond with God. And yet I didn't understand that I could also have a relationship of with guides. And this was completely foreign to me. So when I began praying at 26 for help, I just thought I was asking God for help, and God did not appear to me in that moment. But I committed to a prayer practice like none other because I couldn't work, because I couldn't breathe. And I started getting information. And in today's world, people are like, oh my God, you were channeling. That's great. But if to me, it was absolutely horrifying because I had a mother who suffered with mental illness who heard voices. So as I'm getting information, I'm sitting there and I had two choices. I felt that either I was going down the same direction as my mother into mental illness, or these guides or information that was coming through that I knew was not my voice had a way to help me to heal. I chose the latter belief and I started following the guidance that I was receiving, but it was horrifying. It was
Wow.
not.
Wow. So, trauma from childhood, leaving you with a sense of disconnection from your authentic truth, which ultimately led to a really severe health condition that sounded quite life threatening. And then nothing could help in the Western medical model. And so you started following intuitive guidance. Give us the overview. How did this resolve? Because, boy, where you are now, you're
Yeah.
using acupuncture and energy healing and sound healing, and you are helping other people transcend these patterns of trauma. So, can you give us just in a nutshell, how did this all play out?
So this was at a time when alternative medicine didn't exist, and I was living in the middle of New York City. So these guides started telling me, well, go here. And like they were literal, go to this store, there is somebody there for you to meet. And so I followed, like literally followed the guidance. And the very first person I met was very old Chinese healer who in China did acupuncture, but because he didn't have a degree here, he did herbology and he did energy medicine. And I met him, according to me, by coincidence. And he said, you're very sick. I help you. And I was like, oh my God. I wish I could say I understood, but I was horrified. I was like, how does this person know? And this was like before, channeling and psychic. things were very mainstream, I was horrified. And yet I said, okay, I'll go for one session. I went to his office, which was an apartment, and he had like an army cot. I mean, Lauren, I will tell, I was horrified. I was like, oh my God, I'm a nice Jewish girl. What am I doing in the middle of harm? What am I doing in, like, is he going to hurt me? And I mean, the fact that I would even lay down in the army cot was horrifying, but I
Wow.
did, and it helped. I mean, I remember walking home and I was like, oh my God, I can breathe more. I was like, what is happening? But it was such a shift in thought patterns. It was such a shift in belief systems that my body could hardly, or I could hardly keep up with what was happening.
Yes, yes. You use the word energy medicine. I'm going to want to come back to that. But for those people who don't know what it is or who haven't heard of it, can you give us just a little overview? What do we mean by energy medicine?
Sure. So I want you to think of everything in the universe is energy. We are an energy matrix. We are created in a certain way that our energy flows in a pattern that we're used to. And sometimes our energy gets stuck. So we may not even know it, but the way it can present if we're stuck is in, let's say, stomach problems or headaches or backaches or any kind of disease. So if you look at it from an energy perspective, it's like a river that is now dammed up. It is now backed up. And so the water isn't flowing well or easily. And what we want to do in using energy medicine is to get that movement that is healthy and good for you flowing again.
That
And so,
makes so much sense. We're going to take a quick break and come
oh,
back. But what I'm hearing is when we have these traumas, these emotional situations from our past, it can block our energy and cause physical illnesses. And we're going to come right back with Ellen to talk about how we can get this flow moving again. Thank you.
And thanks for listening to Vivatude. 4 hosts, one each week. We help you revivitude your next chapter because purpose, passion, and prosperity isn't out there. They're already within you. Brighter, bolder, truer. Vivatude.